My roommate is a furry. I just found out why my pet cat has been in pain. When I met my roommate Kevin, we became best friends. We would play video games, go to parties, and hang out all the time. That was until he discovered the furry club at our college, and my life was turned upside down. I was already familiar with furries, as there had been a furry enthusiast club at my previous college. After Kevin asked me what they were, I explained that furries were people who enjoyed creating art about animals with human characteristics. Up until this point, Kevin had only used the internet for studying and gaming purposes, but as soon as he had typed furry into the Google search bar, it was as if someone had just flipped a switch. He became a completely different person. Instead of joining me in partying and games, he'd spend his free time on his computer, browsing through all sorts of furry forums and other websites. He still went to class and did his work, so I didn't think too much of it at the time. But after we returned from Christmas break, he showed me what he had been working on while on break. He had apparently taken up drawing and had sketchbooks filled with different horrifying types of furry characters. One such character he had drawn multiple times and explained that it was his fursona. I found the design impressive, but I was extremely thrown off the second he asked me if I was attracted to it. I immediately shut that down and told him how disgusting he was to even think about that, and he apologized, saying it was just a joke. I knew he wasn't joking. I started to get more worried when I saw his grades begin to suffer. He'd rarely show up to class, and when he did, he always seemed exhausted, like he hadn't gotten any sleep the previous night. He spent more and more time on his computer, or at least, it seemed like he did. He kept his door locked, and he only came out to eat and use the bathroom. It got to a point where I just told him he needed help, but of course he brushed me off and would tell me that everything was part of the plan. I wished I could help him more, but he was still my friend, and I didn't want him to hate me. If only I knew the disgusting things he was planning to do. It was this week when the cats started vanishing. There were quite a few strays on campus, and some of the dorms let the students keep small pets, so there were plenty of cats around the school. There were so many that it was hard to not notice that they were going missing. The corkboard in the campus library was filled with missing posters. Campus security was increased when rumors began to circle about a supposed catnapper. A few students claimed to see him, luring strays away with a small bag of catnip. I had a cat myself, and was starting to get worried. Originally I was scared she also might get stolen, but I was even more worried when I noticed she was acting differently. Not as a stiv, didn't walk around very much and seemed like she was in pain. I saw Kevin even less during that time. The few times I did see him, he was accompanied by a man I didn't recognize, slightly overweight, balding, and wearing glasses. Asking around, I learned he taught at the medical school nearby and was a retired surgeon. I didn't know why Kevin was hanging around a guy like that, but I convinced myself it was better not to know. I pushed any thoughts of Kevin to the back of my mind and tried to focus on my studies. By April, I had all but forgotten about Kevin. That was until I received a text. I was watching Netflix when I heard the buzz. I thought it was my phone, but noticed it was Kevin's. He'd left his phone on the counter. I had to read it. I had to know what was going on. Hello? Kevin would like you to come to the basement of the science building. The door is unlocked. I thought about ignoring it, but it was the first time I'd heard about Kevin since the beginning of the semester. I quickly typed a response. Why? Almost immediately I got a reply. Please, he wants you to see this. Against my better judgment, I threw on my jacket and left the dorm. I had to know if Kevin was all right, but more importantly, I had to have answers. I had to know why he was involved with this surgeon, if he had a part in the missing cats, if he had anything to do with my cat acting completely differently, even refusing to stand up anymore. As the text had promised, the door to the science building's basement was unlocked. I'd seen the place a few times. There wasn't much down there aside from some old equipment. When I entered, however, I was surprised to find a whole setup. It was made to look like a mock hospital room, or more accurately, a surgery theater. Curtains surrounded a makeshift operating table, and I could make out the silhouette of someone lying on it. Another silhouette stood over the table looking down at the figure before turning its attention to me. It stepped away from the table and parted the curtains, revealing the form of the same man I'd seen accompanying Kevin for the last month or so. What struck me right away were his clothes. A blue operating gown stained with blood and bloody rubber gloves. It looked like he had just come from surgery. He watched me with a sad, solemn expression for a moment before I found my voice. Where's Kevin? What did you do to him? The man removed his glasses before responding. I'm sorry. Your friend is alive, but I'm sorry, I had no choice. It was either this or losing my job. He gestured to the operating table, stepping aside so I could examine it for myself. My desire for answers outweighed my anxiety, and I slowly stepped up to the curtains and pulled them apart. I struggled to comprehend what I was looking at for a few seconds, but once the realization hit, I nearly passed out. On the table laid a person-shaped mishmash of fur of varying colors and textures. Looking closer, I could make out some finer details in the unholy amalgamation, mainly in the face. A cat-like nose, lopsided cat ears, and whiskers confirmed my worst fears. Kevin? As soon as his name left my mouth, Kevin's eyes shot open, revealing green cat-like irises and slit pupils. He turned his head to face me and smiled. His teeth had been sharpened to a point, his canines far longer than they should be. I stared in horror, nearly at a loss for words. Why? He gave a small shrug. Like you said, man, fursuits are expensive, so I made my own.